Welcome back, SethBling here. I recently put a video on my channel entitled SethBling's Final Video, which is of course an escape room and not actually my final video, as evidenced by the fact that this video came after that video. So fear not, I will continue making content. This video I wanted to do kind of like a technical overview of a lot of the technology that I used in the escape room. I'd spent quite a while working on that escape room, about 2 months, where I was not really doing much else productive with my life except for working on that escape room. And I thought it came out great. I was just like super happy with it, actually. The room ended up looking, well, it ended up looking like my room, I don't know, my actual room at home, basically, which was very on theme. But also the way that it unfolded live at the Minecraft Marathon was kind of perfect. The players took 59 minutes for a 1 hour escape room, which you can't really cut it any closer than that. And it was just so exciting at the end because they were right down to the wire. There was some considerable like kind of technology that went into it though, and so in this video I want to talk about the green screen puzzle. That'll be what I start with, which was definitely one of my favorites, and I think a lot of other people's favorites. I want to talk about the Connect sort of pose puzzle. I want to talk about the voice puzzle, and then also the Super Mario World ROM that was written by Kaizo Man at the end of the escape room that sort of played into the finale. So I'm going to go over all four of those puzzles today. I've also got source code and that ROM available for download in the video description if you want to check them out for yourself. Yeah, so let's get right to it. Let's start off with this green screen puzzle. This is basically how I play tested to start with, or kind of how I was prototyping to start with. I have this like notepad. This is just some random notepad I got somewhere. Happens to have a green cover. And actually, what you're seeing right now, this is OBS, Open Broadcasting Software. This is a free public software piece that you can download, and it's very flexible. So for me, I have, oh, that's funny. There's a green cord right here that was actually being chroma keyed out. So this is what the pad looks like normally. This is just a notepad, right? When I turn on this chroma key and color key, this was actually a trick I learned from HC Justin at the marathon itself. I was having problems. If you don't have the like chroma key, it's like, look, it's like very finicky. Or if you just have the color key, it's also a little bit more finicky. But if you have both, this gray, basically wherever it's gray, it means transparent. It actually is quite reliable in terms of filtering out the colors that I wanted. So the difference between chroma key and color key is basically chroma key can be one of, no, actually I don't know what the difference is. They look the same to me. I thought one was like allowed custom colors and the other didn't. I really don't know, actually. I think it might have to do with like what color space it uses for comparison. So anyway, but I guess in both of them you can select a custom color. And so what I did was I turn off those things, click select color, and then go to pick screen color. And so then I hold this up, and basically like the orientation that I was planning on the players like holding it up to the camera, and then you just click on screen, it'll get the color. And so now if I turn that color key back on, you get some of the pixels, not all of them. And then when you turn the chroma key on as well, it says chroma key is just set to green. I don't know. Anyway, I had to play around with this a little bit to get it to be reliable, but it was pretty good at the marathon. You could kind of see some of the green poster board, but it worked pretty well. And the other thing I did, so basically this is like, there's two items on this page. There's just this image in the background. And so I'll go over kind of how I made this image. And then there's the actual like webcam. And so at the marathon, what I did was I had this actual, this was the OBS setup, well, very close to the OBS setup I used. And then I just did a full screen projector to this monitor, this same monitor, which is this one. So it's full screen. And then I used, basically in the software itself that was running the escape room, I just captured this window, the full screen projector window. And I'll show you some of that software later. here's there's the source code open in Visual Studio. This is C#, using WPF, UWP, and some other cobbled together code that I found online. But so I actually, to make this background image, I used paint.net quite a lot. This is just like another free piece of software that's not nearly as flexible as Photoshop, but it was good enough for me, and it's nice lightweight UI. So basically, like, you can have layers, so sticks and iron background, and then let's see, what do I need? So there was that, and oh yeah, and then just the table. So if you look at it here, basically what I did is I wrote text using just like the text feature here where you can write text. Blah, blah. Oh, it's all green. No, wait. Oh, it's just in the wrong layer. Okay, anyway. I wrote text and then I split it between the crafting table layer and basically merged it into this like crafting table, like just this layer. This is one layer basically. And then a different layer which just has this stuff. So this is basically, I mean, you can see when you put it together, you see R33, which was the third element of the combo lock. So this was what I just like imported into the final image, which was just this was actually a thumbnail for my video where I showed off SethBling's gumball machine shop. But yeah, you can see this exactly is what, and then I actually ended up coloring. So initially, actually, all these were white in the background image. All the letters were white, and the playtesting was not going very well. These beacons kind of looked like they were part of the same thing, like just because they're white. And so I actually colorized them here. It also helped you tell like which bit of text went with which crafting recipe, and it made it a lot easier, but like in a good way. I think it was just like people were just getting stuck and confused, and it wasn't very fun. So playtesting is really important when you're designing puzzles, because when you're designing the puzzle, you know how it's supposed to be done, but other people, they have to figure it out. And so you need to know how much of a hint do they need, or how much, like how to create that pattern for them. They can actually figure it out in a reasonable amount of time and without getting frustrated. Then I also actually added like black borders around them, which kind of helped them stand out against the background. And if you look real close, actually, you'll see that there's a black border around everything that is like actually the edge of the letter, but like these parts of the R connect to the thing on the crafting table. And so there's no black border around this part. And so that also helps you like orient it and figure out what's like how the two pieces kind of come together. But yeah, so this was like coding wise, there was no actual like really code here. It was basically just this OBS capture. I mean, I did have to like get this capture into the software, into that WPF app, which was way more of a pain than I thought it was going to be. I ended up using a UWP, which stands for Universal Windows Platform, bit of code, which like UWP and WPF only kind of work together, and it was not easy to get them to work together. Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much how this one worked. Oh, the one thing I haven't mentioned yet is you may have noticed that the text in the background is flipped. This whole thing is flipped. The camera specifically is flipped, and so it's because like if I move the crafting table to the left, it's a lot easier if it behaves like a mirror versus like a camera that's rotated the other way around. So you want to flip it, make it behave like a mirror. The other side benefit of that was I had text written on the crafting table, but it was actually flipped as well, which means that it's a little bit harder to guess just by looking at the crafting table what the text says. And so you actually have to do the puzzle, because the text here is right way around. The text on the image is the right way around, but the text on the crafting table is backwards. It just makes it a lot harder to kind of like put them together in your head, and it makes it a little bit more necessary to actually go through and do the puzzle. So anyway, that's how that one worked. Next up, I want to go over my Kinect. Like I brought my Kinect home, but it is not working. And so what we're going to do is just go ahead and like watch some of the footage from the video of the players doing the Kinect portion. And so I really like this dance Arcus was doing is when they discovered that Connect was actually, tracking their skeletons. So the first thing here, they, they picked up the photograph from the wall, and there's a T pose. This T pose told them what to do, and that was just like basically a tutorial. It's like, yes, it's actually tracking your skeleton. Yes, it actually cares what pose you're in. But this was the actual puzzle here. So there was this crafting efficiency tape grid or graph, and a similar graph appears on screen here. So basically, what I did is I struck the pose that was like the target pose that they were supposed to actually make, and I basically just took a screenshot of that, and that was the target pose that they had to do. So if we go back and look at that picture of the graph, during playtesting, people were having kind of a hard time. One of the most important things to do during this puzzle is figure out what each bar means. Red, green, blue, yellow. They all like mean something different, and they can all be kind of independently controlled. And so what I did to make it a little bit easier was I wrote down these little initialisms: LS, LE, RS, RE, LH, LK, RH, RK. And so it's very obvious that there's L and R and L and R at the beginning of these, but it took people a little bit to figure out what the second letter of each initialism meant. And that was kind of intentional. I didn't want to give it away. I wanted them to have to kind of work towards it. And I think the play group that actually played it through at the marathon, they did figure it out correctly eventually. But it's left shoulder, left elbow, left hip, left knee. Shoulder, elbow, hip, knee. So what's actually going on here is these are angles. There's no degree sign, but these have values between 0 and 360. And so this first one here is the left shoulder. And so that's this joint right here. This joint right here is the left shoulder. If you measured the angle going around this side of the left shoulder, you'd find it to be 199 degrees. This one right here is the left elbow. And you can see it's almost exactly 180 because it's almost a straight line, right? Similar with like the knees, which is the cyan one and the pink one here. Those are almost exactly 180 because they're almost exactly straight. And so once you know that, like, it's just a matter of kind of varying each joint until you get. Oh, they had a Phantom Mario. This was funny. It was being hypothesized that the Mario in the background has a face, and the camera was detecting the face and just sort of like, yep, that's a person, and was extrapolating the rest of the body from that, especially since the Kinect you can see was sort of on the table, pointed a little bit upwards. So that actually corresponds pretty well to where that fake person was being detected. That was kind of funny. I like some people in chat kind of figured that out during the live stream, but yeah, so they're angles, and eventually they did figure it out, and I could see at the end they were working out like what was wrong with their pose, what they needed to modify. There was also at the bottom a sort of like percentage correct indicator. This percentage correct indicator was like had a little bit of a weird logic to it, but basically like if you were within 15 degrees of the correct angle, you would get like you would get some credit, at least like half credit for that joint. And so, okay, there were 8 joints. So each joint is responsible for 12.5%. So you would get at least 6.25% credit on this bar, and you would add up. But if you had it exactly right, so if it's 15 degrees away, you get 6.25% credit. If you had it exactly right, you get the full 12.5% credit. So if you had every joint exactly right, it would be at 100%. If you had every joint within that tolerance, it would be at least 50%. And basically this, like, there was like that hold pose dialogue that pops up. That hold pose dialogue basically was just checking, is every joint within 15 degrees of the correct target value that was on this graph? Anyway, so you could see like the bar going up and down as they kind of got towards the right pose. It was very like jittery because constantly the Kinect is like making small adjustments to what it thinks your pose is, but it did give you a general sense of like how close you were to correct. And the little Mario guy. Yeah, I eventually had to just move the Kinect so that it was pointing away, and it basically so this Mario was not on screen. That was really funny. So that's pretty much how this one worked. This was one of the first ideas I came up with for this escape room. It was really interesting designing this escape room because I've never designed an escape room before, but even for people who have designed an escape room before, this is still quite a bit of a different challenge than a normal escape room, because this escape room was not really for the participants, the people who were there in the room. It was for viewers, right? This needs to be something that people can watch and enjoy. And so you can't rely on tiny little text somewhere on written underneath a desk, right? You have to rely on big things that can be filmed with either a camera or captured by a digital capture device. And so the Kinect was sort of this perfect thing where you can see a person's whole body. You can see this display on the capture, and it's very watchable. It's very understandable what's going on. You can kind of try and solve it for yourself to some extent, like what they're doing wrong or what those initialisms mean. That was a theme throughout the whole thing. The green screen was a very similar idea. It's the green screen, you have to be able to, let's see if I can find that footage of that actually. You have to be able to see what's going on the green screen to do the puzzle, which means that the capture will by definition be something that viewers can see and sort of read along with the participants. So that was just a theme that you may have noticed through the whole escape room, is that I tried to make things large scale, something you could view, either through the camera or through the capture. And again, that's why the Super Mario World ROM was such a good finale. It's because we have that capture. But I'll get to the Super Mario World 1 in just a minute. First, let's look at the voice capture. The voice capture was, and I'm actually going to look at some source code for this one. It was, let's see, right about here. So this is called a Pigpen cipher. And you can see the actual cipher itself down in the bottom left. Basically, for every letter, you look at the lines that are around that letter. So this E is in the middle of a grid. And so any square with all four sides and no dot is an E. But if it has a dot, you look at the right-hand grid. And if it's a square with four sides and an N, then a dot, a square with four sides and a dot, that's an N. And there's similar grids for diagonal lines. And so this is a pretty simple cipher key to just kind of write down and memorize. It's a pretty common one. I asked the participants if they had ever seen them before, and they all said, yeah, we've seen this before in escape rooms. So, so to actually make this happen, I used the Kinect API. One of the, Kinect does track your skeleton, and that was used in a lot of games, but it also was used for voice commands. And so it has a very flexible API for creating your own sort of voice recognition dictionaries. And so I'm actually going to go over to let's pause this. Go over to the dictionary, the source code here. You can kind of see how I wrote this. Welcome back, SethBling here. Today I want to show you a cool data pack I wrote. That's about it. Thanks for watching. The idea for this came from my SethBling video generator video, which is my 500th video, where I had it basically generating random videos by stringing together randomized chunks of sentences, basically. And so this was a very simplified version. I originally had it much longer than this, but I really needed to boil it down into something that wouldn't take forever to translate and then speak out one word at a time. So this code basically splits up all the words by using the white space, and then it strips off any punctuation to feed it into the voice. Here, let me actually make this a lot bigger. To feed it into the sort of voice recognition system, because you need to just give it words without any punctuation. And so, but it kept the punctuation in in memory, so that when you said the word that corresponded, when you said the vocal word that corresponded to the textual word, it would insert that punctuation back into the text here, so that when you say all the words, you get sort of the punctuation, and it helps you a little bit just as a human parsing that text, and because you're saying it only one word at a time, it helps you recognize that it's the script for a SethBling video. I thought this was really fun. I actually was very surprised in my very first playtest that I ran with just some friends from around where I live. Uh, I thought this was really cool to just have the players discover. Um, it was very risky though, because especially the voice recognition was not that great, and depending on like what the echo was in the room and just who was speaking, it would not always pick up the words the best. And welcome specifically was one of the hardest words for it to understand. And so you have to accidentally get it to like, you have to say welcome in a way that it like understand, that the Connect could understand. And if you were just like kind of mumbling like WELCOM, it says welcome, like it wouldn't. You need to say the one word alone very clearly for it to pick it up. Let's go back a little bit because it's gone. They've gone to the green screen. And so this in some of the playtests did not work very well. In fact, in their playthrough, the actual full playthrough at the marathon, I think it did not say welcome, or it did not like hear welcome like when they said welcome. They said something else and it mistranslated it as welcome. But once they saw that, they were like, okay, it is listening to us. Maybe we can get this to recognize our voice. And so then they figured out very quickly. I remember CoStar said, no, do it slowly, make sure it's one word at a time. And once they got that, then it was all smooth sailing. But there's a bit of risk in this puzzle that like they will just never figure out that it's actually listening to you. But yeah, they were really excited when they got it all. So that one was oh yeah, and I just had I basically wanted to make it all automated so I could just modify this text to anything I wanted and it would automatically update. And so actually, if you look, here's the source code that you can download. So this code is all under Connect and then Skeleton Basics WPF. This is like a sample that I modified, Skeleton Basics, to make the full app. But basically, if you look in images and then Pigpen, there's a list of all the Pigpen cipher images that I got from a website. And so it has the ASCII value of that letter and then the actual image of the letter. And then the final thing I want to show you guys was this ROM hack written by Kaizoman. So Kaizoman and I sort of worked together on this to figure out what it should be exactly. So this ROM hack, I wanted it to look like the normal game when you booted it up. And so it does. This is the exact title screen. And since this was playing on the screen the whole time, it looked like it was just regular Super Mario World. And in fact, if we can find, I wonder if we can find some footage of them like fiddling around with the Super Nintendo, but hopefully the camera will kind of pan over there. Oh, you can't really see it. The Super Nintendo had the cartridge already in. This cartridge I pasted a Super Mario World label onto. I printed out a Super Mario World label and pasted it on. And there is an SD card in the top of the cartridge because it's a flash cartridge. I needed to play a custom ROM. I had to use a flash cartridge, but I pasted the Super Mario World logo on. And I remember I asked CoStar about it, but he said that he saw the SD card that was plugged into the top of the cartridge, and still it didn't register. He thought it was just a normal copy of Super Mario World. Of course, once they actually get in, the 4 controllers that they plugged in through the multi-tap ports here, you can sort of see them starting to do that here. They plugged in 4 controllers, but each controller only controlled one button. So one controller controlled left, another controlled right, another controlled, well, I guess the 2 jump buttons, and then another controlled like the run / Yoshi tongue / Yoshi spit button, which is X or Y. So it took them a while to like even figure out how to start the game because controller 1, which is the first one they picked up, just controlled right. It didn't control anything useful. Oh yeah, they also up and down and start and select and whatever. We're all also assigned to different controllers, but those weren't used very much. So once they got in here and they realized that the 4 controllers each control the button, and then they read this custom text. Welcome, this is Dinosaur Land. In this strange land, we find the Princess Tudsteel is missing again. Looks like Bowser is added again. This is mostly the just default text that's normally here, but obviously we modified the names of the characters. This was their first sort of clue that yes, it's a custom ROM and things might not be as they seem. So some of the modifications we made. If you tried to enter this level, I don't know how well you can hear it, but it's making a sound. You can't do it. So we locked him out of Yoshi's Island 1 to sort of get him to go where they wanted to go. They didn't actually go into Yoshi's house, but if they had, they would have seen this custom text box, and this would have actually probably helped them figure out that there's another custom text box in Yoshi's Island 2, which is the main level that they played. Time's almost up. You must work as a team to halt the automatic deletion timer. Glitch out the system with an arbitrary code execution exploit. So it was a bit of like flavor text and also just to indicate like, yes, this is a custom ROM. Yes, you all have different controllers and you'll have to work together. But yeah, then they entered this level. So there was that Pixels poster. So they noticed this pretty early on. Let's see if I can find some. So yeah, here you can see this Pixels poster. So this was a poster I made based on the ROM hack, where I took screenshots and all of the pixels that they had to use. And this poster actually came out really nice. This was a kind of cool poster. I got several people indicating to me that they like kind of wanted to take the poster home, and we did end up auctioning it off, and I think it made something like $500 on the auction, for Extra Life charity. And it had pixels at the top that really drove home, like, these are the pixels. So they noticed this, the players noticed this right away, but in playtests, a lot of people didn't really notice this. And I will tell you that, like, as you're running along, you'll see these visual glitches, right? As you pass through certain pixels. And a lot of players either didn't notice it or they did notice it, but they just like thought it, this is a custom ROM. There's going to be glitches, and it's just a single frame, really, that it shows up. So it just looks like an actual glitch, right? But it's not, of course. This is if you like get onto that actual pixel, you see that like the palette changes and it stays there, and it corresponds to one of these pixels that's on the poster. And so the team that played it live at the marathon actually noticed that immediately, and I breathed a huge sigh of relief, because not investigating these pixels was responsible for like 15 minutes of slowdown in all the playtests that I did. So they were the only team that actually noticed that. But then they were like very short on times. They were like kind of panicking. Most teams would just like kind of explore the level. They would, jump and hit this thing when they got to this point, which says the actual steps you need to take. It doesn't explain where the correct pixels are, but of course, those are the pixels in the poster. Kill the charge and chuck with fire. A lot of teams, because they didn't notice those pixels, would like just basically grab Yoshi and try and kill this charge and chuck. But of course, and then the team that the team that played it live also never tried to go farther in the level, but you can't. You'll just fall through the level. And I thought that was a really funny troll. It was a way of basically telling the players, like, you don't need anything past this point in the level. Some other cool things we did are this shell right here. If this gets destroyed, it will actually just respawn. Normally, if you destroyed it like that, it would not respawn. Or if you spit it out with Yoshi too, it wouldn't respawn. Same with this shell over here. And so that was basically our way of making sure that they couldn't really soft lock themselves by destroying all the red shells. If I come back, it's right there. So similarly, if they got on Yoshi, which is called Yashi, they would if they lost Yoshi, if they got hit, Yoshi ran off the edge of the level, this block would actually respawn here. This would respawn. But actually in all the playtests, anytime anybody lost Yoshi, they just died. They just like died and reset the level, which was fine too. So at this point they needed to do the 4 spits. Whoops. I'm having trouble remembering which button's which. Alright, there we go. And so it was basically the second one, the fourth one, the third one, and then the first one. It's hard because I'm playing this on keyboard. So the second one, the fourth one, and there's a sound. There's like, if you get it right, there's a like correct, like a ding sound, and if you get it wrong, there's a sound, and you have to start over from the first one if that happens. So there's the second one, and then okay, that's fine. And then, and if you spit a shell like somewhere that isn't one of those 4 pixels, just basically it doesn't interact. But you do have to do them in order. If you get any wrong, you have to start the sequence over. And then the final step is to come grab this guy. Whoop. Nope. Come grab this guy. And spit out fire at the charge and chuck. What they didn't notice because they went a little too fast was this silver coin, because they were just like ran right into it as the silver coin spawned. But then once you spawn the silver coin, the instructions tell you to grab it and then press select, and then you jump. Oops, nope, jump to collect it, and that will trigger the credits. So this is sort of like our fake credits warp, right? It has a lot of the elements of an actual credits warp, involving spitting out shells at pixel perfect coordinates, and killing the charge or doing something with the charge and chuck to get a glitchy something to happen. The glitchy item kind of mirrors the cloud that you get out of the charge and chuck. So yeah, again, huge thank you to Kaizo Man for writing this ROM hack. Obviously, we worked together on what the actual puzzle would be, but he wrote all of the code that like split basically allowed 4 controllers to work as one. Everything you see, the palette swaps. This was awesome. And there was a lot of like work to make sure that the players wouldn't soft lock and things like that. And it was just very, very well executed. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video. Like I said, the source code is available for download. That C# WPF project, if you want to look through it or use it for yourself. It requires the Connect SDK, and make sure you have WPF and UWP installed as part of your Visual Studio installation if you want to actually run the code. Yeah, this is a really fun project. Oh yeah, this ROM also is available for download. I'll include both the 1-player version where you can play it just with a single controller, and also the 4-player version if you happen to have 2 multi-taps and a Super Nintendo and 4 controllers. Just so it's it's out there and you can look at it if you want. But yeah, this was super fun. I would love to do another escape room again sometime, hopefully maybe at the next marathon, next Minecraft marathon. Now that it's, we've done 1 escape room, I feel like a lot more people are going to be on board with it, and maybe we'll have more resources, more people helping out, and we can maybe even go a little bit bigger with it. And also I won't have to make it like a clickbait SethBling's final video where, nobody knew it was an escape room until a minute into the segment where I actually just said, like, yeah, we're gonna start a timer, and I didn't explicitly say it was an escape room, but it was pretty obvious what was happening. But yeah, so check out the video description for the download links. Thank you to Kaizo Man, thank you to Nakomi, who worked on a lot of the props, and everyone else who helped out filming and playtesting and all that. That's about it. Thanks for watching. It was an escape.